Okay, we're in here. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Just giving you a heads up. My stream is lagging by quite a bit, unfortunately, and it can't be fixed today. So if you do want to be in sync with my commentary, you should adjust your stream accordingly. You can see the ticker tape on the graphic that I've got up right now. Reminding everybody, because there will be people throughout the stream saying, hang on, you're lagging. That's what the ticker tape is there for, just to remind people that, unfortunately, the stream is lagging. The stream of the fight that I'm watching. And yeah, it is what it is. So thank you for your understanding. Shout out to Mr. Luca. He says, White Moses headline a disgrace. Well, it depends on whether it's a pay-per-view. Otherwise, I think it's okay. You know, it's apparently got Nick Bull on the undercard against Ray Ford. The thing about headliners is that it's not just about which is the most prestigious fight. It's about which fight is going to garner the most interest from the public. And in the boxing markets that matter, the ones where most of the money is made, Italma versus Dillian Whyte, I have to imagine, is going to garner more interest than Nick Bull or Kakachi, Ray Ford, etc. And so it makes sense for it to be top of the bill. Mr. Lucas says, for a Saudi card, I bet you it will be pay-per-view. If it's pay-per-view, that's definitely a disgrace. It's not a pay-per-view worthy fight whatsoever. And if it is pay-per-view, that'll be another example of DAZN taking the absolute biscuit. Taking the absolute liberties. Yeah, I just uploaded a video about the Dillian Whyte Moses Italma fight. It's apparently in the final stages of being finalized. So I've uploaded a video about it, giving you my thoughts in a more comprehensive and concise fashion that I could give you here. So I urge everyone to just go watch it. It's only like 8 minutes long. It's not a particularly long video, so go give it a watch and I explain how I feel about it as things stand right now. Richard Draper says the Latin night card in Saudi wasn't pay-per-view. That's correct. And that was a pretty good card. So hopefully it'll be like that one. Dillian Whyte used to be a pay-per-view headliner, but he hasn't been that for many, many years. So you can't really justify Italma versus a washed-up Dillian Whyte as a pay-per-view event. Mr. Lucas says, don't know why it headlines in Saudi, though. It's very weird, Hatman. You guys must all see that. No, I don't. As long as it's not a pay-per-view, I don't see the issue with it. Moses Italma versus Dillian Whyte can definitely headline a card in the UK. A non-pay-per-view card in the UK. Absolutely it can. Moses Italma is a rising prospect. He's got a lot of talent. There's a lot of hype around him. Dillian Whyte is an old warhorse. He's been there, seen it, done it. Fought for the heavyweight title, fought Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, so on and so forth. So that fight could certainly headline at, let's say, the Copper Box. No problem. So it's just that type of fight which would headline the Copper Box. Instead, headlining in Saudi, as I say, as long as it's not one of their pay-per-view cards, I don't see what the issue is. Mr. Lucas says, surely it should be in the UK. Well, that's the thing. Dillian Whyte is not going to take a fight like that for UK level money. So it can't be in the UK. Do you know what I mean? He is being used as cannon fodder for Moses Italma. He knows that. And so he wants to get paid far more than the fight is actually worth. Because at the Copper Box on regular DAZN, it's not going to generate much money. Itama's not a pay-per-view star yet. Dillian Whyte, as I say, washed up, hasn't fought on pay-per-view for a while. So he's going to want all sorts of money to fight in Itama, because that's the reason I was so surprised the fight got made. I wouldn't have thought the risk reward would be attractive for Dillian Whyte. But they've made it attractive for him, and that's why it's in Saudi Arabia, because that's where the big money is. The Saudis seem to have stopped paying the super big purses outside of Saudi, with Canelo Crawford notwithstanding. Other than Canelo Crawford and maybe some of Canelo's subsequent fights, they seem not to be paying the massive, massive purses outside of Saudi anymore. So yeah, it's a Saudi fight, because I don't think the finances would have worked anywhere else in order to get Dillian Whyte in the ring in what is basically a cash out. You know what I mean? I expect him to get chinned. I want to say the majority of the public are going to expect him to get chinned. And he's not getting chinned by an Anthony Joshua or a Daniel Dubois or an Alexander Usyk or one of the bigger names in the heavyweight division. No, he'll be getting chinned by a prospect. So, yeah, he's going to want to get paid a king's ransom for that. Far more than the fight could actually generate. So, I understand it. I understand why it's happening in Saudi. And as I say, as long as it's not pay-per-view, I've got no issue with it. But shout out to Mr. Luca. Shout out to Matt. He says, very much prefer Franklin over Dillian Whyte, the man who struggled against the 150-year-old Etty. What's the guy's name now? Tete. I guess you mean Tete. Well, the thing is, Dillian Whyte did beat Franklin. Tete, you mean? Yeah, Dillian Whyte did beat Franklin, although that was a while ago, and that was a close fight, Dillian Whyte against Franklin. I would have preferred Franklin as an opponent for Itama as well, in terms of getting him rounds. Franklin is very tough. He's got a very, very good chin, and he's somewhat slick defensively. So I would have preferred Franklin as well in terms of getting him rounds. But as far as building Itama's profile, I completely understand the Dillian Whyte fight. Because Dillian Whyte is a far bigger name. In the UK, people know who he is. And he can be used as a measuring stick for Itama. It'll be the first recognizable name, really, on Itama's resume if the Dillian Whyte fight happens. So, from a profile perspective, Dillian Whyte is the better opponent. But maybe from a getting rounds perspective, Franklin would have been the better opponent. Cash says this seems like a very poor decision from Whyte. Well, it depends on what other options are on the table for him. And it depends on how much he's getting paid for this fight. Because again, I'm assuming that Dillian Whyte must be getting paid way over the odds for this fight, or else he wouldn't have taken it. Do you know what I mean? He must be getting paid a king's ransom for basically cashing out against a prospect. I don't see any other reason for him to want to take it. Yeah, I reckon, Matt. I reckon 7 figures. I reckon Dillian Whyte's actually getting 7 figures. In fact, I would expect Dillian Whyte to be getting paid a lot more than Itama for the fight. Oh, yeah. For example, you know when AJ fought Charles Martin? When Charles Martin was IBF champion? You know Charles Martin, despite the fact that nobody knew who he was in America or the UK, AJ was the star. Charles Martin got paid way more than AJ for that fight. Way more. He got paid multi-millions, whatever it was, 5, 7, whatever it was, million. He got paid a lot more than AJ did. Because AJ was in it for the opportunity. And it may be similar with Dillian Whyte and Itama. In fact, I'd be surprised if Dillian Whyte isn't getting paid a lot more than Itama for the fight. And Chisora doesn't seem interested in fighting Dillian Whyte again for whatever reason. Maybe because of the PED stuff. So, what other options does he have? He doesn't want to fight Lawrence Okolie. Truth be told, even though Okolie's a former 2-weight world champion, he's not even as high profile as Itama is. Yeah. Itama versus Whyte is, I think, a bigger fight right now than Okolie versus Whyte. Big up Kieran Malcolm for the super chat. He says, bless up to you and your family, Hatman. How do you think Itama would do against Jarrell Miller? I'd love to see how he would cope against that unit. Miller is a tough night's work for anyone. He really is. Even when Daniel Dubois beat him, it was a tough night's work for Dubois. He's a tough night's work because he's so durable. He's got a great chin. He's confident. He isn't the biggest puncher in the world, but when he's in shape, and when I say shape, it's all relative for him, but the kind of condition he was in against Andy Ruiz, that version of Jarrell Miller, I'm telling you, if you don't have good to great stamina as a heavyweight, you're going to find yourself in trouble against Jarrell Miller because he's going to push you back. You're not going to push him back. He's too big and strong. He's going to push you back all night. And you're going to have the engine to be able to keep punching and keep punching and keep punching. And your chin's going to have to be good enough. Again, not like Jarrell Miller's a massive puncher. He's not. But if you are a bit chinny and he catches you clean, he's going to hurt you. So I think that would be a fascinating fight. Personally, I don't think it would be worth taking that kind of risk right now with Moses Itama against a Jarrell Miller as he learns his trade and works his way up towards a title shot. I think Miller is a far more risky fight for Itama than Dillian Whyte is going to be if the fight gets officially announced. Yeah, I agree with Cash. If Moses has any cardio, chin, or heart issues, Miller would absolutely expose it. I would steer clear of him if I was his manager. I agree. Miller is very, very tough. Definitely got one of the best chins in the heavyweight division. Iron Mike says, ever since the live stream about Burger Necks, I've been noticing them more and more. All right, so please read the ticker tape on screen. Those of you who are just joining, just giving you a heads up. My stream is lagging a little bit behind. So it can't be fixed, unfortunately, today. It'll be fixed for future streams. David Naylor says, same. I saw a burger neck today and immediately thought that guy can take a shot. Ben says, when does the fight start? It starts after the current fight that's on. In fact, let me just give you a reference based on the fight that's currently on. So it is round 10 of the O'Leary-Dillon fight. And on my screen, I'm seeing 1 minute 20, 19, 18, 17, 16. That just gives you an indication of how much my stream is lagging, all right? 1 minute 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1 minute left in the 10th. That's how much my stream is lagging. Is it like 30 seconds? It's quite a big lag. It's quite a big lag. So if you want to be in sync with my commentary, you might want to adjust your stream back a bit. 30 seconds or whatever it is to be in line with mine. If you want to do that, I know it's a bit of a hassle. Okay, yeah, it's about... For Matt's stream, I'm only 10 seconds back. For somebody else, I'm about 30 seconds. Oh, wow. Joshua says that his stream is 50 seconds behind mine. So even slower than mine. Okay, someone else says 40 seconds. Yeah, it's quite a way back, unfortunately. And it can't be fixed today. All right, around 20 for somebody else. The round is still going for me. There's the bell. For the end of round 10. So again, if you want to be in sync with mine, please make the necessary adjustments. Matt says, I wish I could skip this fight. It's so boring. The whole undercard has been trash. It's been awful. Triple R says he missed out on Tyson's record, but Moses has potential to pass Marciano's undefeated streak. I can't see him doing it, taking on everyone twice like Usyk, though. You'd have to be careful. Well, technically, he could still break Mike Tyson's record for being the youngest undisputed champion. I think Mike Tyson was, 21? When he became undisputed? When he beat Tony Tucker? 21 or 20, I think 21, not 22. Pretty sure he was undisputed within a year of beating Berbick. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was within a year. In fact, let me look it up now. You know, I was watching, because I spoke about the incredible picture quality of Netflix when they did the Mike Tyson-Jake Paul fight. And so I went, they've still got it up on Netflix, that fight. And I went to watch the first round of that fight again. And I'm absolutely amazed, totally mind blown and amazed when you go and watch the first round or any of that fight. But look at the first round. I'm totally mind blown and amazed that there are still people who are adamant that Mike Tyson basically threw the fight. There was some guy who turned up in the comments on one of my videos a couple weeks back who was saying Mike could have knocked out Jake Paul whenever he wanted. It was a fixed fight. I'm like, this guy literally doesn't know what he's looking at. And I said to him, you're very naive if you think that was a fixed fight. And he said, no, you're naive, not realizing that things like this happen. I'm like, of course things like this happen. You think I don't know, having watched boxing since the 80s, that fixed fights don't happen? Give it a rest. I'm saying that this was not an example of a fixed fight, Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. You're talking about a 60-year-old man. A 60-year-old man. But naive casuals were bamboozled by cleverly edited clips of Mike Tyson hitting pads and hitting the bag. All you needed to do was go and look at the Netflix shoulder programming in the run-up to that fight, where it showed behind-the-scenes footage of Mike Tyson sparring, Mike Tyson hitting the bag, and you would have seen that he looked absolutely terrible. He looked terrible. He looked like you would expect a 60-year-old man who's been, bunning weed for the past decade or whatever, right? Who hasn't been living the life and who got stopped by a journeyman, Kevin McBride, like 20 years ago. Right? His body riddled with old injuries. Yeah, he fought like that. And when you look at that first round, Mike Tyson looked absolutely shocking. Okay? Even in the live workout, which was streamed on Jake Paul's channel during fight week, he was doing pads with his coach during that live workout, and he looked terrible then. So if you'd seen that, and if you'd actually watched the Netflix shoulder programming in the run-up to the Mike Tyson-Jake Paul fight, you'd have known that Tyson was totally finished, and what we saw in the ring was not a fixed fight. It was literally just a 60-year-old man riddled with injuries, totally washed, been bunning weed and all that type of stuff. I mean, there were moments in that first round where Mike Tyson was tripping over his own feet. His coordination was totally off if you watch him. Totally off. Moving around exactly like an old man. His pants pulled up damn near to his chest like an old man. He also, if you notice, has got a big lump in the middle of his back. Mike Tyson, his whole body shape, his muscle shape and everything is totally different now compared to what it was 20 years ago even, at the end of his proper career. His muscle shape has all changed with age, right? His body looks all distorted and whatever. Face looks tired, no energy, no life in him. And yet these extremely naive casuals say, he could have blitzed Jake Paul whenever he wanted. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. Anyway, rant on that aside. Just go back and watch the first round of that fight. Look how bad Mike Tyson was. How people think that fight was fixed is beyond me. It was 2-minute rounds in 14-ounce gloves, not for Jake Paul's sake, but for Mike Tyson's sake. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Anyway, Mike Tyson, 22nd of November, 86, is when he beat Trevor Berbick for the WBC. And it was actually quicker. It was within a year. So 1st of August, 87 is when he became undisputed. So what was that? 9 months. So between winning the heavyweight title, so after winning the heavyweight title, his first with the WBC, he was undisputed within 9 months. That's crazy. He was moving at breakneck speed even after winning the title, fighting very regularly. Yeah, 100%, Mr. Luca. Jake Paul held back. Yeah, Jake Paul held back in the later rounds. Now, why did he hold back? Did he hold back because he was carrying Mike, or did he hold back because he didn't want to make a mistake when he was winning so easily and get embarrassed? Maybe a bit of both. Shout out to Matt for the super chat. He says, I think Mason has a clearer path to youngest undisputed champion than Atama since Keyshawn pulled out. Well, Mike Tyson was youngest undisputed champion at heavyweight. I don't think he's the youngest undisputed champion of all time. I'm not sure on that, actually. Who's the youngest undisputed champion pound for pound in any weight class? I don't think it's Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson's just the youngest undisputed at heavyweight. But I don't think he's the youngest undisputed in any weight class. In fact, let me look it up. Who's the youngest undisputed in any weight class? Just looking it up here. Let's have a look. I was just checking that Benitez wasn't undisputed. No, he wasn't undisputed. He was WBA and Ring magazine champion in the 70s. So he didn't have the WBC. So he wasn't undisputed, but he's still, Wilfred Benitez, the youngest world champion in history. He became WBA lightweight champion at the age of 17, for those who don't know. Yes, Wilfred Benitez, world champion at 17. Crazy, right? Noctis, the fight starts next. It's on next. So it should be within the next 30 minutes, 20 minutes. Shout out to Matt. He says Teofimo Lopez arguably might be the youngest since technically he should have been undisputed versus Lomachenko when he was like 22. Well, no, Mike Tyson was undisputed at the age of, I think, 21. So he would have been younger than that. Richard Draper says, boxing moves too slow for anyone to take Tyson's record now. It would seem so. Yeah, it would seem so. It would seem so. Although I think Eddie Hearn might want to make a run at it with his new signing. The new heavyweight that Eddie Hearn has, God, I've forgotten his name. Any of you in the chat remember the guy's name? I forgot his name now. Leo Atang. Thank you, Kyle. Yeah, Leo Atang. Yeah, Leo Atang. I suspect Eddie Hearn might be thinking, let me maneuver him to become the youngest heavyweight champion of all time. If I can. Even if he's not that good, let me try and get, pick off a weak champion or something with him. Trolls Are Bad says it would take a young prodigy to do that again and then turn him pro at like 15, 16. Well, the thing is, to become the youngest heavyweight champion of all time, you don't necessarily need to be that amazing. And I say that because Floyd Patterson was the youngest heavyweight champion of all time prior to Mike Tyson. And Floyd Patterson wasn't a particularly great fighter, But he came along in a relatively weak era. Relatively, Sonny Liston was lurking around and he eventually got knocked out by Liston, but relatively weak era. And he was expertly managed by Costamato. Expertly managed and maneuvered. So you don't necessarily need to be some generational talent or anything, generational great, to become the youngest heavyweight champion in history. You just need the right set of circumstances and very good management. That's right, Encircled. Patterson wasn't really a proper heavyweight even back then. He actually turned pro at light heavyweight. And he competed in the amateurs at middleweight. Like most of his career in the amateurs, I think, was at middleweight. And then he turned pro at light heavyweight and eventually built himself up to heavyweight, and he was small at heavyweight, which is why he didn't take such a great shot. Iron Mike says, Hatman, I smell an upset incoming by Huni, by UD. Could be. Huni's definitely the better boxer than Fabio Wardley. He's got quick hands. He's more well-schooled. But the thing is, many of Fabio Wardley's opponents in the past have been as well. The difference with Huni is that he's faster. He's not just more well-schooled. He's faster than the likes of Fraser Clark. Although I'd say his speed might be comparable to an Adelaide. He's a better boxer than Adelaide, definitely. Justis Huni. So, yeah, there could well be, I call it, would it really be a massive upset if Huni won? I don't think it would be a particularly big upset, given Huni's credentials in the amateurs and whatnot. I don't think it'd be a massive upset, but it'd certainly upset the fans in Ipswich, for sure. I'm slightly leaning towards Fabio Wardley, but I wouldn't at all be surprised if Huni pulled it off. Not at all, because the guy can box. He does have all the experience. He's young. He's not an older guy and a slow guy like Fraser Clark. And Clark gave Wardley hell in that first fight. Do you know what I mean? A slow, ponderous Fraser Clark gave Fabio Wardley hell. Obviously, Wardley cleaned him out in the rematch, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'm leaning towards Wardley, but not by much, to be honest. I see it as a very competitive fight. I'm expecting it to be tricky for both guys, right? But whatever happens with Wardley, whether he wins or loses, I don't think it's going to be an easy fight for him. I reckon it's going to be a tricky one. Kyle's saying, Huni's mustache is crazy work. Mustaches are kind of gone out of fashion, innit? Mustaches were all the rage in the 80s. 70s and 80s was like the mustache era. Mustaches were so ubiquitous at some point, in like the 70s in particular, that I have to imagine if a man didn't have a mustache, he'd be looked at strangely. Do you know what I mean? He'd be looked at strangely in the 70s if he didn't have a mustache. Yeah, beards took over. But you know, the beard gang thing is quite recent, because I want to say up until maybe 2010, beards weren't really in fashion like that. I want to say it's since about 2010 they've really started coming in. Yeah, it's raining. You know, that's always the issue with these outdoor stadium fights is, in the UK anyway, the weather can be unpredictable, unreliable, inclement. And yeah, looking at the over the top bird's eye view, it looks like that ground is very wet. But they're giving him all those, what do you call them now? Plastic rain max, however you describe them. All right, here we go. Thomas Triber calling Justis Huni to the ring. Here we go. What type of ring walk, what type of entrance have they managed to rustle up for him at relatively short notice? I mean, relatively short. He's had, what, 6 weeks or something? So here's Huni. Decked in white, coming out to some rap tune. I've heard this rap tune before. I don't know who it's by. Shout out to Gaz. He says Huni by TKO. That's an interesting poncho. Thank you. Yeah, we'll call them ponchos, plastic ponchos. Thank you. Gaz says Huni by TKO. All right. Fabio Wardley does have that reoccurring cut on the bridge of his nose. Could that become an issue in this fight? People are saying the mustache is gone for Huni. Yeah, you see, looking at somebody's physical features is not really a way generally to determine whether they can take a shot. Because, for example, people talk about the fact that Justis Huni's got a big jaw and a big nose. Well, who else has got a big jaw and a big nose? Marius Wack. He's got kind of a similar facial structure to Huni. But Marius Wack in his prime had the best chin in the heavyweight division. Justis Huni certainly doesn't have that. I'm not saying Justis Huni's got a bad chin. I'm not jumping to conclusions so quickly based upon what happened against Lorena and what we saw in sparring. I need to see Huni hit clean in a few more fights before I come to that conclusion, that he's got a chin issue. But what I can say is that he definitely doesn't have an iron jaw. despite the fact that his face is kind of similar in terms of the size of the jaw and all that to a Marius Wack. So punch resistance is a really mysterious thing. So anyway, we've got Fabio Wardley coming out now. So they played a bit of the Godzilla intro, and then it goes into Can't Be Touched by Roy Jones. Wardley coming out decked in some Spartan-looking outfit in blue camouflage. Soaking in the atmosphere at Portman Road. You got Alois Jr. in tow. Supporting his stablemate. I don't remember Alois Jr. walking Itama to the ring. Although it would have been a short ring walk anyway. And he was fighting on that same card, so I guess you wouldn't. But yeah, Alois really supporting his guy. And Fabio Wardley's manager, is it Michael or Ofo? I forget his surname now, Nigerian surname. He's quite funny, unintentionally. The way he sticks it on Eddie Hearn at press conferences and that. It's quite amusing. So Fabio Wardley's just wiping his feet before he gets into the ring because it is raining there. Matt says, David Tua, the best Australian heavyweight ever, agreed, although he was born in New Zealand. David Tua wasn't any kind of Australian. He was completely New Zealand. He was a complete Kiwi, New Zealander. He was not Australian at all. He was totally New Zealand. A shout out to Matt. He said, who's going to leave the Ben Davison gym first? Atama or Wardley. I can't imagine they stay in the same camp. I would suspect Wardley will be the one to leave first because I don't think Ben Davison is his sole trainer. He's got another trainer that he's been with before he was with Davison, who has a lot of input into his training as well. So I suspect if either of them leave, it will be Wardley leaving first. That's my suspicion. I reckon Atama's going to be in for the long haul because not that Ben Davison's had him from day one, but he's had him from very early. And I'm sure Ben Davison thinks that Atama is the better talent. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, if anyone leaves the gym, I would expect Wardley to leave first rather than Atama. Encircled says I'd actually pay a few thousand for a pair of headphones that cancel out Adam Smith's voice. I'd pay a few thousand for headphones that cancel out Darren Barker's voice. Ade says, yeah, that nose, you can see the scar. It's going to open again. We'll see. We'll see. It's certainly going to open again at some point in his career, innit? Probably sooner rather than later. And it could well be tonight. It's an interesting fight. A very different sort of fight than Jerome Miller would have been. But to me, it's still interesting. I'm expecting Wardley to get outboxed in the early going. And he's going to have to step on the gas and really attack Justis Huni with some serious ferocity to get a grip in the fight. To get a hold of the fight, should I say. Jelly Mold says Barker's does get tiresome real quickly. Barker just annoys me in general. The tone of his voice, the stuff he says, I just find it really irritating. Now, let me have a look here now. So I'm looking at the chat. Let me look at the fight. Yeah, Huni looks confident. He looks ready. Doesn't look nervous at all to me. If he is nervous, he hides it well. Remember, this guy was a vastly experienced international amateur, so normally, not always, normally those kind of guys handle the nerves relatively well. And there's no pressure on Justis Huni. All the pressure's on Fab. Fab looks confident. He's chewing gum. And Fab is a very naturally confident character. There was a very interesting interview with Wardley. I forget whether it was Ring Magazine or there was some interview that came out over the past week where Wardley was talking about his journey in boxing. You know, when he first walked into a boxing gym, he wanted to spar immediately. And they were like, "Are you sure?" And he was like, "Yeah." And they said, "Okay, who'd you want?" And he looked around the gym for the biggest guy. And he said, "I'll spar him." And Wardley said he got an absolute pasting. He said this guy that he picked to spar beat him all over the ring. And after getting battered for the whole session, Wardley said, "Okay, I'll be back tomorrow." That's the type of character it takes. It's not just the fact he got battered in his first spar. A lot of people do. It's the fact that he wanted to spar the first day he ever stepped in a boxing gym and he picked out the biggest guy. Anyway, here we go. You guys are probably already watching the fight starting, but I got the referee touching their gloves. I'll tell you when the first bell goes for me. And you can choose to sync with my commentary or not. It's up to you. There's the bell for round one. Fabio Wardley snapping out a quick jab. Not landing, just touching Huni's gloves. Huni looks relaxed. Right hand from Wardley. Skimmed by Justis Huni there. Wardley looking sharp in the early going. Huni just having a look. Bouncing around on his toes. Looking to warm himself into the fight. Warm his way into the fight. Left hook from Wardley was easily ducked by Justis Huni. You can see the experience. Good jab there by Justis Huni. That was a nice jab to the chest and then jab to the face of Wardley. That shows the experience of Huni. He knows the little tricks, the little boxing tricks of how to land certain punches. Big right hand from Wardley is easily blocked by Justis Huni, and he skips away to his left. Nearly a minute gone in the first round. Nobody's landed anything particularly significant. Best punch, I would say, was that solid jab to the face by Justis Huni. Huni very relaxed. Wardley, I think, expending more energy at this stage than Huni. Just looks a little more tense, maybe. Not like he's super tense, but I do think, looking at his body movements, he's expended a little more energy than Huni. Huni looks very, very relaxed, very calm. Wardley looks a bit more intense in the face. Maybe that's where I'm getting it from. Because Huni's got a complete poker face. There's no intense look. There's nothing. Just total poker face. That's a nice jab there again from Huni. It's a bit of a jab fest at the minute. Left hook to the body there was, I think, maybe slightly low from Justis Huni, but good idea. Right hand to the body back from Fabio Wardley. Another body shot there. Right hand from Justis Huni. Nice shots. And as expected, Huni getting the better of the boxing at the minute. And as I said before the fight started, I do feel if Wardley's going to win this fight, he's going to have to throw caution to the wind at some point and really impose himself. Because in a boxing match, Justis Huni wins. He's the more skilled boxer. He's got quick hands. He's clever. Throws educated shots. That's another nice jab from Justis Huni. 30 seconds left in round one. Right hand there, just skimmed by Wardley's head. Another right hand over a lazy Wardley jab there for Justis Huni, but again, another glancing blow. This is a Justis Huni round for me so far. Wardley going with a double jab. It doesn't quite land. They tie up in the middle of the ring. Referee breaks them. A few seconds left in round one. There's the bell. So that's a Justis Huni round for me. 1-0 Huni. Just had to get a notepad out here real quick to keep score. There's a nice shot there from Wardley right at the end, actually. Yeah, that was a good shot. Was Huni a little staggered at the end there from that shot? Let's have a look. He didn't show it there. He showed Huni landed a shot. Anyway, here we go, round 2. A very, very intense look on the face of Fabio Wardley. Right hand to the body from Wardley. He's really going for that right hand to the body. Very purposeful. Tries to throw a right hand, slips on the canvas there. Might be a little wet because of the rain. Jab to the body from Fabio Wardley. Nice jab back from Huni. Again, battle of the jabs so far and body shots. Nobody's really landed any telling headshots so far, apart from in the final seconds of that first round. Jab to the body from Huni. Huni fighting behind a high guard. Fabio Wardley with that low left hand. So you can see the difference in the stance and the style of both men. And they tie up. A minute gone in round 2. Jab to the body from Wardley. Wardley so far in the first minute of this round, I think, has been boxing a little better than he did in the first. That was a left hook there attempt from Huni, although I think it was short of landing on Fabio Wardley's face. I think it might have landed on his chest or his glove. They tie up on the inside, nearly halfway through round number 2. Interesting fight. Hasn't quite caught fire, but you could see how it might at some point. Fabio Wardley just poking the left hand out there, not really snapping it, just using it as a rangefinder and also to try and blind Justis Huni. Again, it's a close round here, but I think Wardley's just doing a little bit more. So I got Wardley just edging the first 2 minutes of round number 2. Right hand to the body from Justis Huni. Wardley firing back with his jab to the head. Right hand is blocked by Huni. There's a brief exchange on the inside, but nothing telling landed by either man. Huni now on the front foot. Attempted right hand from Fabio Wardley. Right hand from Justis Huni. You know, it's kind of a role reversal in the second round, because in the first round, it was Wardley on the front foot, and Huni actually got the better of it. In this second round, it's actually Huni on the front foot, and Wardley is walking him onto shots. And Wardley's actually doing better in the second round on the back foot than he did in the first round on the front foot. So that's a good adjustment by Fabio Wardley, to be fair. Yeah, for me, that's a Fabio Wardley round. Now let's see if they show us some slow-mo from that second round. I guess not. They're putting Wardley's gum shield back in. Here we go, round 3. Battle of the jabs pretty much so far in body shots. No serious damage done by either man. Combination from Fabio Wardley at the start of the third. Blocked by Huni. Huni jabbing to the body of Fabio Wardley twice. That's a nice jab to the head from Huni. He's quite educated. That's a good left hook there from Justis Huni. He's got Fabio Wardley pinned against the ropes. So that's an educated left hand from Justis Huni. He's caught Fabio Wardley off guard with that left hand several times now. Wardley tries to open up, but Huni easily blocks those shots. So educated left hand from Huni. He's tricky with that left hand. Double left hook there from Huni on the inside. Targeting maybe Fabio Wardley's nose, which has been damaged in several fights. We'll see how it holds up here. Huni on the front foot. Right hand round the guard there from Fabio Wardley. Justis Huni is on him. Fabio Wardley ties him up. Yeah, interesting that you got Huni on the front foot, Wardley on the back foot, which is the opposite of the first round. Wardley made a good job of this in round 2, but here in round 3, Huni's really stepping on the gas. And for me, Huni's had the better of the first half of round 3 so far. Good jab again from Huni. Left hook from Huni. Fabio Wardley holds on. This is a good round for Justis Huni up to this point. Wardley really missing a lot of shots. A lot of his shots being blocked. Huni appears to be far more accurate here. Oh, big left hand from Fabio Wardley. Huni might have been rocked there. Huni moving his head though. Moving his head. He seems calm under pressure. But Wardley did land a nice shot. But is Wardley going to punch himself out trying to finish Huni? Can't be silly. Can't allow the crowd to get him overexcited. You know, because Huni was still calm. He still had his wits about him. He was buzzed maybe momentarily, but had his wits about him. So Wardley cannot afford to be wasting loads of shots here. He needs to get back on his boxing. He's a very excitable character in the ring, Fabio Wardley. Right hand from Huni was a nice shot. 15 seconds left. 14, 12, 11, 10 seconds left. Shots back from Huni there. Fast hands. Nice right hand from Huni. Left hand to the chest of Fabio Wardley. That's the end of the round. That's a Justis Huni round. Yes, Fabio Wardley had that brief moment of success, but the rest of the round was all Justis Huni. That brief moment of success is not going to win Fabio Wardley the round on my card. No way. That's Justis Huni. I'd like to see some slow-mo here. If the zone will do the courtesy of showing us. Let's have a look here. There's Wardley against the ropes of Huni. Right hand to the body, left hook to the head was a nice shot from Huni. Not an enormous amount of power on it, but still nice shot. There's the jab from Huni, and yeah, very educated left hands from Justis Huni. But there's the shot, a left hook from Fabio Wardley, which maybe stunned Huni slightly, but he had his wits about him and he easily evaded Wardley's follow-up. So here we are at the start of round 4. Both guys come out aggressive. Huni on the back foot here. Fabio Wardley coming out real aggressive. But I think he's wasting a lot of punches and a lot of energy, Fabio Wardley, with some of these attacks. Needs to be more sensible with his gas tank. Fabio Wardley jabbing on that back foot. Left hook to the body from Huni is a nice shot. And with Fabio Wardley wasting so many punches and Huni going to the body, how's Wardley's gas tank going to hold up? Right hand. Wardley, is he bleeding from the face? I need a closer look. But that was a nice right hand there from Justis Huni. Triple left hook there from Huni. Getting some angles on the inside against Fabio Wardley. Wardley coming back. Wardley looks like he's blowing already to me. And this is why I was picking Jarrell Miller to beat Fabio Wardley, because Wardley's a very tough guy. But in the second half of that first Fraser Clark fight, he was knackered. Do you know what I mean? And it's not that he necessarily has bad stamina, but he doesn't manage his gas tank that well, Fabio Wardley. When he senses he's got some success, nice jab again from Huni, he tends to go overboard, you know? And I guess that's his style, and that's what has got him out of trouble a bunch of times. But, oh, nice right hand from Huni. Another Huni round. Nice left hook from Huni. Wardley comes back with a right hand to the body. Left hand to the body from Huni. Wardley just wasting too many shots, you know, that are being blocked or missing. Huni being far more efficient. He looks like he's got more energy in him. He looks more comfortable in there right now. It's Fabio Wardley that looks like he's struggling with the pace. Body shots from Wardley. Left hook to the body from Huni was a nice shot. Right hand from Huni. Huni throwing combinations on Fabio Wardley as he has him up against the ropes. Wardley blowing a bit for me. This is another Justis Huni round. Left hand to the body from Huni. And those body shots are going to take it out of Fab. There's no question about it. Swings a wild right hand. Does Fabio Wardley, which Justis Huni easily gets away from. There's the end of round number 4. That's another Huni round in my book. So I got it 3 rounds to 1 for Justis Huni. See if they show us some slow-mo here. Yeah, you see, Huni's full of these little tricks. He dipped low as if he was going to throw a body shot, but then he came over the top with a right hand to the head. Clever stuff from Justis Huni. This is the kind of stuff that you learn when you've been boxing from a young age like he has. Obviously, you know, high-level international amateur and all that. You learn all these little tricks. He's a bit too cute for Fabio Wardley up to this point. And I maintain what I said before the start of the fight. Wardley's going to need to impose himself at some stage. And I mean really impose himself, because trying to box with Huni is not working. It worked for maybe 1 round, but Huni figured out what he was doing pretty quick. So anyway, here we are in round number 5, 10 seconds in. Fabio Wardley going with a 1-2. I think Wardley needs to keep going to Huni's body, as a right hand just misses there from Huni. Needs to keep going to Huni's body. Huni's going to his body. He needs to go to Huni's body to try and, you know, even the score, if you will. Yeah, there you go. Wardley coming forward here, letting a big right hand go, but needs to really target that body, because Huni's got a very tight guard. And defensively, he's quite responsible. So he needs to go to Huni's body to try and bring those hands down. Uppercut there from Wardley. I don't think it landed that flush, though. Wardley headhunting here. Needs to go to that body. Really needs to go to that body. Bring them hands down. Attempted uppercut from Wardley did not land. Jab to the body from Wardley. Needs to keep going to the body. I'm telling you. Body shot from Huni. See, Huni's doing what Wardley should be doing. When Huni can't see an opportunity to land a headshot, he's like, okay, body's available. Let me go there. Nice left hand to the body from Huni. Huni winning the first half of this round. Number 5. No real power on Huni's shot so far, but they're scoring blows. There was a right hand to the body from Fabio Wardley finally. Nice right hand to the body from Huni there. Wearing Fabio Wardley down. Will Wardley even have the Super Saiyan mode left after all those body shots have hit him? I'm not sure Wardley's been hit with this many body shots in any fight previously. Not that I can recall off the top of my head. And Wardley looking to hold after throwing a 1-2. That's not a good sign for him. The signs are good, though, for Justis Huni. Left hook from Justis Huni as he's got Fabio Wardley up against the ropes. Wardley again looking tired in there. Huni attacking with some ferocity now. Left hook again from Huni. Right hand from Huni. Yeah. Fabio Wardley getting outboxed there. Huni bleeding from the nose, so something from Wardley has landed, but does Wardley even have that next gear in him at this point, after all the body shots he's taken? Yes, we've seen it in previous fights where he's getting outboxed and gets hurt a couple times and he comes out with this higher gear and manages to damage his opponent. I'm not sure he's got that higher gear left at this stage. I mean, maybe if he catches Huni with something, he'll get an adrenaline rush, you know? But absent that happening, I don't know, man. That was a decent uppercut there from Wardley that did actually land, looking at the slow-mo. Right hand from Huni. Yeah, you know, Huni's shots, not particularly powerful. He's not really noted as a puncher, but they're scoring blows, you know? They're scoring blows. You don't have to win fights by knockout. There is such a thing as winning on points. Anyway, we're into round 6, 15 seconds in. I've only given Fabio Wardley 1 round so far. Good jab there from Huni. Rocked Fabio Wardley back on his heels. And another good jab from Huni. Real nice jabs from Justis Huni. Nice boxing. And he's got a nice bounce in his step. You see that with Justis Huni? Left hook there from Huni as he pushes Wardley back to the ropes. And Wardley just holds on. You know, when have we seen this from Fabio Wardley before? Where somebody comes at him and he holds on rather than firing back. I think that's indicative of how tired Fabio Wardley is and the effect that those body shots have been having on him. Nice jab again from Justis Huni. Nice body shot from Huni with the right hand. He's got that beautiful bounce in his step. And that is throwing Fabio Wardley off because he's punching off that bounce. Oh, Fabio Wardley nearly caught Huni with a right hand coming in, but not quite. And of course, this is the moment that my stream decides to freeze on me. Okay, we got it back. All right, technical difficulties there, folks. What's happened to my stream? Oh, dear. All right, here we go. We're back. .50 seconds left in the 6th. Justis Huni again. Another round in the bank, it looks like. Jab from Huni. Right hand from Huni. Fabio Wardley looking frustrated in there. He's going to need to take the bull by the horns. Like I say, he's going to need to come forward. But he's too tired. Wardley looks knackered. He needs to come forward and attack the Huni body. Just get physical with him, hit him in the body. Oh, big right hand from Justis Huni over the top. Pushes Fabio Wardley back to the ropes. Wardley hoping to catch him with something coming in. Yeah, there's the end of round number 6. And it's been nearly a clean sweep for Justis Huni. We know Fabio Wardley's got heart, but has he got it in the tank to turn this one around? We know he's got power, but is that power significantly diminished now? Ben Davison saying that Huni has got Wardley playing his game absolutely right. And there's another example of how clever Justis Huni is in landing his shots. Right hand jab. There's a lot of misdirection there from Huni, and that's how he's able to land them punches. Frank Warren looking concerned. Eddie Hearn off his seat. Will Eddie Hearn finally get one over on Frank Warren here? Here we go, round 7. Second half of the fight, Wardley's going to need to pull this one out of the bag because it's beyond him at the moment without knockdowns, potentially. Oh, right hand from Huni there. You know, in terms of the mathematics, on my card, Wardley would have to win every single round to get the win by 1 point. From this point, from, round 7. And I don't see that happening. Therefore, he'd need knockdowns or a knockout. Right hand there from Huni. Another right hand from Huni. Huni, plenty of gas in the tank because he hasn't been wasting shots and he's been relaxed. Got a bounce in his step. Body shot from Huni. That looked like a good body shot to me. That didn't seem low. I'd like to see a slow-mo replay of that. What's going on here? Referee's called a timeout. Someone's gum shield come out. Oh, Huni's mouthpiece has come out. Okay. Not sure why it came out there. Ill-fitting, maybe. I didn't see him get hit with a shot that would knock it out. Another nice jab there from Huni. Wardley just slips on the canvas there. I don't think he was there. I think it was a bit of moisture on the canvas maybe. But yeah, Wardley having all sorts of trouble here. Getting outboxed completely by Justis Huni. Just doesn't have the skill to be able to fight this way with him. And doesn't quite seem to know how to take the fight to Huni either. Maybe it's the counter punching of Huni that's making him hesitant to do that, and also the fact he's been hit with all them body shots. Wardley attempts an uppercut there. I don't think Huni has done as much in this round, but has Wardley done enough to take it? Right hand from Huni. No, it's another Huni round. Unless Wardley pulls something really big out of the bag. Yes, another nice right hand from Huni. Left hook to the chest from Huni. Right hand to the head from Huni. Left hooks. Just working Fabio Wardley over. Huge miss from Fabio Wardley there. That drains you. It's a lot more draining missing shots than landing them. Wardley tries a right hand there, but Huni blocked it. Huni coming back at him, punishing him for his mistakes. Wardley looks dejected at this stage. That's the end of round 7. So, all Justis Huni, Fabio Wardley looking like he needs a miracle. Well behind. For me, mathematically, Fabio Wardley cannot win it on the cards at this stage without knockdowns. Or a knockdown at least. I've given Fabio Wardley 1 round in this fight so far. Beautiful right hand to the face of Fabio Wardley there in the slow-mo. Nice. Bang, right hand. Beautiful shot from Huni. Fabio Wardley's lucky that Huni's not a puncher. Here we go, round number 8. Jab there from Huni again. Wardley just can't get out of the way of Huni's jab at this stage. Left hook to the chest from Justis Huni. Fully in control now of this fight. Very comfortable in there. Plenty of gas in the tank. Double left hook. Fabio Wardley back up against the ropes. Getting worked over here. Body shot there. I think the body shot might have hurt Fabio Wardley. The left hook to the body from Justis Huni. Wardley coming back with a big swinging right hand. But Huni has all of Fabio Wardley's punches timed. He knows the angles. He's figured them out completely. He's got Wardley totally worked out. There is nothing that Wardley is doing that is surprising Huni at all. But Huni is consistently surprising Wardley. Wardley trying to jab off the back foot. Huni's jab is more successful, countering Wardley's. A frustrating night for Fabio Wardley. Justis Huni boxing very well, doing what he does. Jab to the body from Wardley. Yeah, we always thought and we always wondered when would be the fight when Fabio Wardley's Super Saiyan mode doesn't work for him. Because it can't get him out of jail every time, when he's being outboxed. That big right hand, the punching power he has, it's not going to save him every time. He's going to need some craft about him. And in this fight, up to this point, it looks like being the night when the lack of that amateur experience has finally caught up with him. The power in the Super Saiyan mode is nowhere to be seen. It's another Justis Huni round, this 8th. 45 seconds to go. Huni pressing the action, fast hands, solid fundamentals, good balance. Left hook there from Justis Huni, right hand. Fabio Wardley just has no answers at all, none. I mean, dare I say it, this is actually an easy fight for Justis Huni. I was expecting this fight, whoever won it, to be keenly contested. I certainly saw, there's the end of the round of round 8. So I certainly saw this as a fight that could go either way. I was slightly edging towards Wardley in the fight, thinking maybe you'd turn it on late and do damage to Justis Huni as he's done in the past. But no, Huni's been outboxing him, and investing to the body early was great from Huni because that has stopped Wardley from coming back and imposing himself later on in the fight. And also Wardley's reckless punch output, where he's just been missing with all sorts of shots and continuing to punch. It's no good. You got to be far cuter than that. You got to be far more sensible than that as you move up in levels of skill. Let's have a look at some slow-mo here. Uppercut on the inside from Huni was a nice shot. Uppercut, yeah. It's nothing spectacular from Huni. It was just good, solid fundamentals and calm, Anyway, here we are, 10 seconds or nearly 10 seconds into round number 9. It's crunch time now for Fabio Wardley. If he's going to pull it out the bag, he's going to need to step on it right now. This is when Ben Davison needs to be saying, roll the dice in this particular fight. Because Fabio Wardley cannot win this fight on my card on points. He needs to step on it. He's completely hypnotized now by Justis Huni's boxing. He's getting outthought in every single moment. Huni is several steps ahead of him. And if the fight continues in this way and it goes to the scorecards and there's anything other than a wide UD for Huni, that would be really disgraceful. A slower start to this ninth round. We're nearly halfway through, actually. Been a slow round so far. Maybe Huni perhaps sensing he's ahead, taking his foot off the gas a little bit. Wardley will be happy about that. Yeah, noticeable drop in pace here in this ninth round. Left hook there from Huni, right hand. He must have heard me. Stepped it up. Body shot there from Huni was a nice shot. Really goes to work when he has Wardley up against the ropes. When he has him static. Nice head movement from Justis Huni. Making himself a difficult target, even here, deep in the fight. Left hook to the body from Huni. Wardley getting a warning there from the ref for shoving Huni off with the shoulder. Right hand from Huni on Fabio Wardley's ear was a nice shot. Tattooing Fabio Wardley against the ropes. Body shot from Huni. Yep, he's won this round too. A whitewash for Justis Huni. Again, just to give a recap on my scorecard. The only round I've given to Fabio Wardley was the second. And even that one was close. Everything else I've given to Justis Huni. It's totally outboxed Fabio Wardley from start to finish. Well, we're not quite at the finish, but, you know, up to this point. Huni's corner are out saying that Wardley's more tired than you, so they're noticing that their man is feeling the pace a little bit. He's been throwing plenty of shots, I'll tell you that. Nice. It's just a beautiful right hand there from Huni. Again, faking like he was going to go to the head and then landing the right hand to the body. He's very good at disguising his punches, Justis Huni. Here we go. Round number 10. Fabio Wardley has 3 rounds to get it done here, to pull it out the bag. And I certainly wouldn't bet on it happening. I don't think he's got it in him. I don't think he's got the gas in the tank. Double jab there from Huni. Still got the hand speed and that bounce in his legs. Up and down, head and body. Right hand from Huni was partially blocked by Wardley. Jab to the body from Wardley. Wardley, all this back foot stuff, he needs to abandon it. Like, seriously, if he wants to salvage this fight, he's going to have to go balls to the wall now. And he's known for that. Well, now's the time to do it. You're going to have to start taking serious risks and abandon the back foot stuff altogether. Because this is not going to work. And going balls to the wall might not work either, but it at least gives him a better chance of landing something significant. Huni, of course, just needs to keep on doing what he's doing. Nice body shot. See, he's so consistent. That's what Wardley should be doing, going to the body like that when he can't see the head. But he's not doing it anywhere near consistent. Oh! Oh my God! Wardley lands a massive right hand just without saying he doesn't have it in him. Huge right hand. Huni is decked heavily. Is he going to get up? Oh my God. It's Huni. Huni doesn't make the count. Oh my God. I was writing for... There's me writing Wardley off again. Yo, Deontay Wilder style. Good God, man. Good God. Oh, my days. He pulled it out the bag. Wow. I didn't think he was going to do that. I thought he was done for. Wow. Huni did get sloppy. I mean, dear oh dear. He must be sick as a dog. I mean, he was dominating the fight, Justis Huni. Eddie Hearn has to give Wardley his props at the end there. Eddie Hearn must be sick as a dog, sick as a parrot, whatever you want to say. Yo, that was crazy, bro. I thought that was a foregone conclusion at that point. I was like, there's no way. Wardley doesn't have it in the tank. I mean, it was a one punch. It's not like he had to come out with a big flurry. It was a one punch KO. Oh, that was his most crazy come from behind yet. That was crazy. That was a madness. Huh? What a madness. Okay. You know, I picked Wardley to win just. I was slightly edging towards him, as I said in this stream prior to the fight. But I thought the fight would be more competitive. I thought Wardley probably would be getting outboxed in the early going, but it would still be somewhat competitive. But no, this fight was a whitewash for Huni. He was dominating the whole fight. Wardley looked like he was done for. He looked like he had no gas in the tank. Okay, Huni wasn't hurting him to the head, but Wardley just looked so tired. I didn't think he could get that kind of power in his shots as tired as he looked. And at this stage of the fight, but he did it. I'd like to see the slow-mo. Yo, Wardley pulls it out of the bag. Right hand. Oh, walked him onto the shot. Crack. That's like one of the few mistakes that Huni made in the whole fight, and he gets knocked out for his trouble. Yo, that was crazy, bro. Crazy. Wow. What a madness. You know, Fabio Wardley has got something magic about him that he's able to pull victory from the jaws of defeat this many times. And in this particular occasion, he needed it more than ever. I mean, this was by far his toughest fight in terms of the predicament he was in. Yeah, that was crazy, bro. Oh, my days. I can't believe he did that, you know. I can't believe he did that. Oh, my God. All right, just going to catch up with some super chats here. Shout out to James Clifford. He says, enjoy the fight, everyone. Get the likes up. Have a great Saturday night, everyone. Have a great Sunday. Big up James Clifford every single time. Big up Ocean Blue for a super chat. He says, oh, I missed this. Hang on. Where's his super chat gone? Yeah, Ocean Blue. Hang on. Let me get my mouse. I hate using the trackpad on the MacBook. Where are we at? Yeah, Ocean Blue says, I've got the commentary on mute. Don't want Barker spoiling my viewing experience. Big up Ocean Blue. Matt says, I'm honestly impressed with Wardley. Fundamentally, he's very, very good for someone who got into boxing late. Although he was getting outboxed the whole fight, but he managed to pull it out, right? And that's what matters at the end of the day. Shout out to High Roll Protagonist for the super chat. He says, that fight was the stuff of legends. It really was. Yeah, it was crazy. Triple R with a super chat says, Wardley upheld the Warriors code. I mean, literally, I was at the stage of the fight that it was. What was it? What were we in? Round 10? It looked like a foregone conclusion. Justis Huni was comfortably ahead and was just strolling his way to a unanimous points decision. Rastafari, that's right, Iron Mike. He was strolling his way to a wide UD. Shout out to Darth for the super chat. Coming with a crazy name. Shout out to Ben. He says, Huni was dominating. Feel bad for him, but he clearly doesn't have a chin. Wardley's time is limited. English Wilder. Big up, Ben. Let's have a listen to Fabio here. Big up Ibrahim for the super chat. Mythical stuff. Let's listen to Wardley. I'm listening to Wardley's interview. 1 second, guys. I'm just going to listen. I'll get back to your comments in a sec. 1 sec. Let me listen to what Wardley says. What a crazy fight that was. Crazy ending. The gods are smiling on Wardley for whatever reason. You know, he's got a halo or something. He's a charmed man at the minute. All right, let's hear from Justis Huni. He must be gutted, along with Eddie Hearn. Sick to his stomach. He thought he had it in the bag, as did I. Huni doesn't even look that gutted. Huni just looks happy to make up the numbers. Doesn't seem devastated at all. Deontay. Yeah, I'm going to stand on what I was saying before Miller pulled out. Miller beats Fabio Wardley. I was leaning slightly towards Wardley in this fight with Huni, but I always felt as though Miller was the tougher fight. And my mind definitely hasn't changed. I think Miller beats Fabio Wardley. Miller has got a way better chin than Huni. Okay, he's not as fast, but he can apply pressure. He does have a good boxing brain. And he beats Wardley in my view. Just listening to Frank Warren interview here, folks. I'll come back to your comments in a sec. All right, there we have it. Terrible undercard, but the main event was very dramatic in the end. After Fabio Wardley getting his head boxed off for 9 rounds, pulled it out in the 10th with a one-punch knockout. Incredible. You're looking at the punch stats now. I mean, he was totally outlanded with power shots, outlanded with punches, landed overall. Just totally outboxed, but pulled it out of the bag. All right, let's get back to... oh, my tab just crashed. What's going on there? Shout out to Kayvon Green for the super chat. He says, bad stoppage. I think the ref should have given a count. Ibrahim says, mythical stuff. He was counting. The referee did count. Justis Huni didn't beat the count. Ayed says it was a bit quick, though. It may have been. I'd have to watch it back. But it may have been a bit quick. We'll see. Joyce says, I think he paid him to go down. No. No, I seriously doubt that. Taylor says, do you think you could have beaten a 15-year-old Mike Tyson? That's a random question. Shout out to Ibrahim for the super chat. He says, if only Huni had more snap and power in his punches, different fight. If only he had a better chin, you know? Yeah, snap and power. Maybe he would have got the stoppage himself. But if he had a better chin, he could have just absorbed that big right hand and seen the fight out. Shout out to Matt for the super chat. He says, a similar counter there to how Huni got hurt against Lorena and how he got dropped in the sparring clip. Seems vulnerable to right-hand counter. Actually, in the sparring clip, it was a left hand. And against Lorena, I think it was also a southpaw left. Now, big up Matt for the super chat. In fact, we can have a look now, because I do have those clips up here. You're going to see in a few moments the sparring clips come up and you'll see which shots landed. But big up to Matt. Big up Ibrahim for the super chat. D-Mid says the camera did move away during the count. Yeah, I'd like to see it again. See how this count was, whether it was short or whatever the case may be. Truth says I didn't see a count. I could have swore I did see a count. When Huni went down, the referee started counting and then waved it off by the time Huni got to his feet. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he counted. Ayad says I heard the count, and I think I heard the count too. Indeed, a KO out of nowhere. A KO out of nowhere. Big up JM for the super chat. He says Huni took one straight to the Easter Island. He does look like an Easter Island statue. Big up JM. Truth Teller says if you're winning every round, you should get a chance to continue. But it all depends on if you beat the count. Did he get to his feet before the count of 10 and the ref said he's in no position to continue? Or did he just not beat the count at all? I'd have to watch it again and see. And it depends whether he was wobbling around, were his eyes swimming around in his head. I want to take a closer look at him because I was in shock when it happened. I mean, I did not think that was going to occur. Yeah, Eddie Hearn was gutted, to say the least. He just can't get one over on Frank Warren at all, can he? Ibrahim says Eddie Hearn sitting down as everyone else stood up. It was an amazing sight. Yeah, there's the Lorena against Huni. It's a left hand from Lorena that hurt Huni. And it was also a left hand in the sparring clip you'll see. Big up Jake for the super chat. He says, thank you, Hatman, for the recent lives, helping me through a difficult time. Appreciate all the work you put in. And big up Jake. And big up anyone having a difficult time. Especially with some of these cruel and heartless people that, unfortunately, people find themselves in relationships with, or formerly in relationships with. Shout out to Jake every time. Big up Jay Silva. He says, would you rather live in Birmingham for a year or spend 2 weeks on safari with Don Charles? If I don't get anything for it, do I not get anything for living in Birmingham for a year? I'd have to do the 2 weeks on safari with Don Charles then. Is there a prize at the end of it? Or is it just like, the lesser of two evils? If there's no prize, then it's the 2 weeks on safari with Don Charles. Someone says a house. But where is the house? Is the house in Birmingham? Yeah, that's right. Upper Tire's fighting tomorrow. Bear in mind the time difference, because it's in Australia. And there's Huni getting dropped in sparring with a left hook. See him there? Legs all over the place, and down he goes. Yeah, Huni was wobbled at the end of the first. That's correct, Ibrahim, yeah. I didn't notice it watching live, but when I saw the slow-mo replay after the first round, I was like, oh yeah, he did get buzzed. He did get wobbled there. Down goes Johnny. A lot of people are saying bad stoppage. I want to watch it again to see if there's anything to that. Alex says super chat not working for him. Seems to be working for others. Not sure what's happening there, bro. Shout out to Matt for the super chat. He says, that fight was like Wilder-Ortiz 1. Down, 1 punch KO. I think you might mean Wilder-Ortiz 2. Because Wilder-Ortiz 1, it wasn't a 1 punch KO. Ortiz was down several times. And Wilder was hurt as well, badly hurt, midway through that fight. But in the second fight, it was a 1 punch KO from Deontay Wilder out of the blue when he was totally down. Some people saying super chat not working for them, but for others it is. Shout out to JM for his super chat. Not sure what's going on with that. That's weird. For some people it's working and others not. Have you tried refreshing the page to see if that helps? Trolls are bad says this one was more unexpected. Well, certainly, although Wilder was getting outboxed by Luis Ortiz in that rematch, he wasn't really tired. Do you know what I mean? He wasn't like, I mean, it was only, I think, round 7, whereas this fight was in round 10. Wardley was knackered. He was getting bullied. He looked dejected. So this was even more of a surprise in terms of a 1 punch knockout than Wilder Ortiz, at least for me. Shout out to Matt for the super chat. He says, Wardley just invented himself as a UK Wilder where 1 punch can change it though. Yeah, that's what Frank Warren called him after the fight. He couldn't remember Deontay Wilder's name at first, which is quite funny. Alex says, been on 2 accounts and it's not working either. That's very weird. So what is it doing when you try and super chat? What does it actually do? But going back to Matt's super chat, there's only so long, as we saw with Deontay Wilder, there's only so long you can keep winning with 1 punch, pulling it out of the bag. You know, eventually someone's going to be able to go the distance and not get caught or stop you. Seb says, I would love to see Moses versus Huni. And they may well be, they tried to make that fight previously. Itama versus Huni. They previously tried to make that fight. Okay, Moro's man says, message not sent, edit and try again when I try to super chat for me. Yeah, that's annoying. It could be some weird bug, you know, because YouTube does have little bugs and glitches from time to time. You know, when you sign into the creator account, you get weird glitches sometimes in YouTube, so it's probably just a glitch. Because for some people, their super chats are going through and others are not, so I'm not sure. I'm guessing some kind of weird glitch. David says, just watched it back and he only counted 6 seconds. All right, somebody's saying turn off the VPN. If you're using a VPN, anybody who's tried to super chat, it could be that potentially. Turn off the VPN. See if it works then. Shout out to Sam O'Brien for a super chat. He says, think Queensbury are going to dominate heavyweight boxing for the next few years. Grassroots investment counts. Indeed. Grassroots investment counts, and they seem to have the most promising prospect in the world at the moment, in Moses Atama. And they've pretty much got the whole heavyweight division other than Alexander Usyk in terms of the fighters that matter. Do you know what I mean? Who haven't they got other than Usyk? Well, AJ, but he's on his last legs. Shout out to Matt for the super chat. He says, no. He's trying to type Wardley with a D in it. It causes it to think it's a curse word. But yeah, I can't envision a scenario where Frank Warren won't dominate the heavyweight division over the next few years. There's no real competition for Frank Warren in heavyweight boxing right now. You've got the little anomaly that is Usyk with his outfit. But other than that, it's all Frank Warren. Yeah, Blue Collar Sports also saying that he thinks Huni beat the count. But that's the thing. If you beat the count, then the referee is going to ask you to walk to your left, walk to your right. He's going to look in your eyes, and then he's going to decide whether you're fit to continue. So I'd like to see it myself again in real time. Let me have a look if they've uploaded the knockout yet. Because DAZN are usually pretty quick with these things. Uploading the highlights and the knockout and all that, but no, they haven't yet. When they do, I'll give my thoughts on whether it was a dodgy stoppage or not. Tony says Huni didn't even contest the decision. That's true. Shout out to Muraz Man for the super chat. He says, Wardley better stay away from Caballero body shots. I guess the super chat is working for Muraz Man now. Was it the VPN that somebody spoke about? Big up Muraz Man. Yeah, I think Devon said that Caballero and Huni look exactly the same. Well, Caballero doesn't have the massive nose and massive chin, but they do look kind of similar, and they've got pretty much identical builds, don't they? But I would agree. Huni should go no, and they've got very similar styles. It's like Huni is an inferior version of Caballero. Encircled says, Huni looks like Caballero and Opataya had a baby. Okay, somebody's saying they just uploaded it to the zone. Let me refresh my feed here. Let's see if it's showing up in my feed. It's not yet. Let me try to type it in. Let me have a listen. Bang! God, what a shot. I'm watching it now. No, the referee's definitely counting. You can see from this angle, he's definitely counting. That did look like a quick count, but the thing is, the referee, here's the thing, right? The referee didn't start counting immediately. Yeah? Maybe because he was surprised by the knockdown. So he looks over to the timekeeper. For those who don't know, you've got somebody at ringside called a timekeeper, and they're the one that actually are going to start the count even before the referee in many cases. Yeah? They're there to keep time of everything, keep time of the rounds, keep time of the knockdowns, everything. So Huni goes down, and the ref seems shocked by it, and so he looks over to the timekeeper, and whatever count the timekeeper is on, the referee picks up the count from that moment. That's what he does. So the referee clearly didn't count from one, but the timekeeper was counting from one. You understand? So he's picked up the count from the timekeeper. Maybe it was on 3 or 4 by the time he picked it up. And based upon this footage I'm seeing here, Huni didn't beat the count. Was it a fast count? Maybe, but he did count to 10. He didn't stop at 6. He counted to 10 because he picked up the count from the timekeeper. And then he indicated that, yeah, I'm watching it again now. Bang, goes down. He sends Wardley to the corner. He looks to the timekeeper, picks up the count. That was a fast count, though. That was a fast count. Yeah, that was a fast count. That was a fast count. He did count to 10, but it was very, very fast. Oh, yeah. Let me plunk this in the chat. I'll put the link in the chat because that was a very, very fast count. Right? But I've just watched it there. It's from a different angle. Watch that I've put in the chat. A shout to Alex for the super chat. He says, 10 on Wardley, KO start of the round, 17-1. What a punt. Yeah, big up Alex. Big up Alex. Drinks are on him. I guess people have either watching some kind of replay of the knockdown, or they just clicked the link that I put up in the chat, and it was a fast count. Oh, it was fast. Ayed says it's a 10 count, not 10 seconds. It is a 10 count, but it's supposed to be reasonable. Do you know what I mean? It's not supposed to be like way faster than a 10-second count would be, actual 10 seconds. And that was a very fast count. It was a very, very fast count. I'll put the link in the chat again. You guys have a look. It's from a different angle. You can see exactly what the referee's doing from this angle. It's a very fast count to me. The timekeeper's count, I don't know what that was like, because the ref picks up the count from the timekeeper. But when the ref finishes off the count, it seems very fast to me. Alex says it was 11 seconds, though. Again, I didn't hear the timekeeper. You could see the referee getting the count from the timekeeper, but I don't know what the timekeeper's count was like. Oh, wow. Is that what it is? How dumb is YouTube, man? See, I told you guys about the YouTube algorithm. I told you guys about how ridiculous the YouTube algorithm is. So Muraz, man, is saying anyone trying to super chat, Wardley is the problem. Typing in the name Wardley because it's got war in the name. Good God, man. See, some of you guys think I'm exaggerating when I complain about the YouTube algorithm. But just putting the name Wardley in when you're trying to super chat is oh my God. That's us. I'm telling you, that's how sensitive. Are they serious? Indeed. That's how sensitive the YouTube algorithm is. It's so ridiculous. It's unreal, man. You can't even put the word war in a super chat. Yo. Unbelievable. And he says, I counted 8 for the knockdown. Shout out to 1-1 for the super chat. Big up, big up, big up. Alex says he was just up at 11 seconds. Yeah, I'll see if that, because the one I've got here is from a different angle. It's like from the position of somebody sat at ringside. It's that angle. It's under his own boxing YouTube channel, but it's not the broadcast angle. So I want to see the broadcast angle because you might be able to hear. Oh, no, that's Talk Sport. I've got there one. Why not the Zone Boxing have their broadcast angle up yet? That's annoying. Let me go to their actual channel. No, they don't have it up yet. Only that ringside view that I posted in the live chat there a couple times. A lot of people are saying they counted 11 seconds. Well, the count starts from when the timekeeper starts counting. So it's not from the clock that you see on DAZN. It's from when the timekeeper starts counting. That's when the count starts. Jackie Boy Johnson says the ref should have used a stopwatch. But again, then you'd have to synchronize the stopwatch to the timekeeper. Maybe they should have something like that. You know, maybe as soon as somebody goes down, the timekeeper presses the button on the stopwatch. Maybe that's a good idea. But yeah, the count starts from when the timekeeper starts the count. And the count should start approximately 1 second after the fighter hits the canvas. You know, so it's not the moment his back hits the canvas, it's 1. No, because that would actually be a 9-second count. You count 1 approximately a second after his back hits the canvas. You wait for a second, then you count 1. The Joker says it's actually crazy how pillow-fisted Huni is. He lands clean shot after clean shot, combination after combination, but the shots barely do anything. Yeah, I think Wardley had more issues with Huni's body shots than head shots in terms of the effect they were having on him. Huni definitely isn't a blessed puncher, that's for sure. Max says it's unfair. Well, I wouldn't say it's unfair. If you get caught, you get caught. It's a 12-round fight, isn't it? It's a 12-round fight. And I agree with the notion that there's no such thing as a lucky punch because every punch is thrown with the intention of landing. So it was a lapse in concentration by Justis Huni, who maybe got a bit too comfortable, you know? As did I. I thought Huni was home dry, home free. I did not think at that stage that Wardley would be pulling it out of the bag. He didn't seem to have the stamina in him, you know? Letmier says it's not just power but chin. Huni is talented, but his lack of power and chin is going to limit him. And perhaps that's why Eddie Hearn has been willing to throw Huni in to this fight at relatively short notice, because that's not what you would normally do with a prospect who you believe in. You don't normally do stuff like that, or a contender that you believe in. He was also trying to give him to Moses Itauma 6 months ago or so, which was kind of puzzling to me. So maybe Eddie Hearn knew what he had the whole time and didn't think he had much because of the lack of power, maybe the punch resistance and so on. I mean, we say that like Fabio Wardley hasn't knocked out a bunch of other guys, you know. We don't maybe question their punch resistance as much as we question Huni's. I say we, you know, the general public is what I'm talking about. Does David Adelaide have a weak chin because Wardley knocked him out? You guys tell me. Paul says Eddie's modus operandi of late seems to be throwing people to the wolves. Yeah, he's quite ruthless, Eddie Hearn, these days, for sure. He's all about the smash and grab. Fast money. Shout out to Rex for the super chat. He says, referee waves right after counting 9 while Huni's up. I couldn't actually hear in the video that I just linked in the live chat. I'm going to post it again here for anyone who wants to watch it. Watch this video. It's from a different angle, from a ringside angle. I couldn't hear the referee's count. I could see him counting. I couldn't hear the referee's count, but it appeared as though he got to 10 and then waved it off. They call it counted out in the act of rising. Out in the act of rising, they call it. And that's what it appeared to be. Let me watch this knockdown again. This knockout again. Because there's a lot of people, including Rex. He's certainly not alone. Many, many, many people didn't like the stoppage. Shout out to Matt for the super chat. He says, one thing about Wardley is he's more technical than someone like Wilder. Yeah, he is. He's more coordinated than Wilder. And that maybe makes him look more technical. But, and no, I would agree he is more technical than Wilder, but he's still a way off most top 10 heavyweights in terms of skills, you know? So he's going to rely on this power and the heart and and it's just got a limited shelf life, that type of approach. It's got a limited shelf life. Why am I hearing music playing in my ears? What's going on here? Which tab is doing this? Weird. Oh, okay, it's this. Shut that down quickly. Don't need that tab no more. Close, close, close. All right, let me have a look at this knockout once more. Bang! What a shot. All right, referee. No, he does count. He reaches 10 right at the moment that Huni's on his feet. But to me, that was a quick count. It was. Because normally when a fighter gets to his feet like that, right on the count of 10, the referee's at least going to have a look at him. You know? But the referee seemed in a hurry to get the count over with to me. He seemed in a hurry to get that count over with. But at the same time, from this angle, just to play devil's advocate, from this angle, you can't see Huni's eyes. And the referee is looking into Huni's eyes. Do you know what I mean? So that might have factored into why he waved it off as soon as he got to his feet as well. But from this angle, you can see the referee does count to 10. The last thing that comes out of the referee's mouth, you can see, is 10. So he does count to 10. But, you know, Huni literally got up right on 10. Yeah, right. So it's very, very close. It's just a matter of whether the count was fast. And it appears as though the count is fast here. Picks it up from the timekeeper. See, Huni's on his feet. This is the thing. Huni's on his feet, I think, by 9, but he's not stood up straight. So I think he's on his feet by 9, but he's not stood up straight. He's kind of like bent over on the 9 count. I'm watching again now. 9. No, Huni. Yeah, he's like bent over on the 9 count, and then the referee waves it off after the 10 count. Seven, 8, 9. I think it's very close. I think Huni's right glove was just off the canvas after the 9 count. So it's touch and go. I don't think. Yeah, so the ref definitely counted to 10. It's just whether that count was fast. That's the only thing. And to me, it seemed like a fast count. Obviously, it's a human being, and it's not going to be precise. You know, it's like when Mike Tyson fought Buster Douglas, the Tyson people were trying to say it was a fast count, when actually Mike Tyson and Buster Douglas both received identical counts. That was shown by HBO. And both counts, if you put a clock on them, was something like 12 seconds, the one that Mike Tyson got and the one Buster Douglas got. So that showed that there was no favoritism, because both guys were knocked down in the fight and the counts were exactly the same length, right? But a 12-second count, there's no problem with it, because as other people have said in the live chat, the referee's count is final. This is not a stopwatch count, yeah? As long as the referee's count is reasonable, roughly 10 seconds, and the referee's count is the referee's count. Now, you could say that that rule is wrong, that they should change it and have the referees and the timekeeper use a stopwatch. Maybe. But that is what the rule is. Do you know what I mean? It's been like that since forever. The referee is the one who's counting. In fact, the timekeeper might have a stopwatch. I'm not sure whether the timekeeper has or not, but the referee will pick the count up from the timekeeper. He'll look to the timekeeper. What count are you on? Timekeeper will indicate with his fingers the count that he's on. The referee picks it up and continues. And the referee's count is a human being at the end of the day. It's not going to be digital precise. It's going to be a second or two off, either second or two fast or slow, you know? But as long as it's within a reasonable range from like a clock count, then you can't complain too much. But to me, it looked like it was on the fast side, that count from the ref. I've seen many, many counts over the years, and I like that count was on the fast side. Shout out to Daily Disruption for the super chat. Shout out to Sam O'Brien for the super chat. He says, Bricktop might have shown the ref his pigs. Yeah. Shout out to Joshua Hooker for the super chat. He says, do you think Hearn is only signing Australians because he's given up competing with Warren? Could very well be. Yes. That's a very good point. Shout out to Nova for the super chat. He says, can he go any other road than that approach? I guess you're talking about Fabio Wardley. Not really. Not really. You know, he is what he is. He's 30 years of age now. I think Fabio Wardley is obviously going to try and continue to improve his skills. But the skills and the technique of even a Justis Huni are something that are developed over the course of decades. It's not something that you can pick up in a couple. It's not something that most fighters can pick up in a couple years, you know? So, yeah, I don't think Wardley really can go any other road than the particular approach he has. He is what he is, you know? So big up Nova. And Joshua Hooker, do I think? Yeah, I reckon that's a really good point that Joshua Hooker made there as to why Eddie Hearn keeps signing Australians, because there isn't the competition to sign Australian heavyweights that there is to sign British heavyweights. And Frank Warren is somebody who's willing to make long-term investments, which means losing money in the short term. Eddie Hearn isn't willing to do that anymore. Even though he is not an accountant, his dad is an accountant, and he's been running Matchroom like an accountant would for, well, decades and decades, right? And accountants are always trying to balance the books. They don't like doing this thing of shelling out ridiculous money, especially if it's their own money. Shelling out ridiculous money and losing loads in the short term to try and gain in the long term. They don't like those kind of gambles. But Frank Warren does it that way. The Hearns are a lot more tight. Now, if they get the opportunity to spend someone else's money, they might do it. Like when Eddie Hearn first went into the US market with DAZN. DAZN gave him a massive budget. He wasn't spending his own money. Do you know what I mean? Or at least, even when he's usually never spending his own money, but at times he has a smaller budget. And presumably his budget is much smaller now than it was 3 or 4 years ago. You know? So he can either dip into his own Matchroom money to make fights, which he has done for certain fights. He said he's done that for certain fights in the past. But I'm sure he doesn't like doing it. He likes spending DAZN's money or Turkey Al Sheikh's money or somebody else's money. Shout out to Ibrahim for the super chat. He says, do you think the downfall of Matchroom started with the downfall of AJ? I think it did. But a more significant thing than the downfall of AJ was, yeah, I think AJ was the thing that started the ball rolling downhill. But it was the switch over to DAZN. Obviously, as we can see now, DAZN had to be the place that they ended up going. But when Eddie Hearn switched to DAZN with the UK, right? This was after he switched to DAZN in the US. He was still on Sky in the UK for a while he was DAZN in America. But when he switched over to DAZN in the UK, at that stage, Eddie Hearn had lost his mind. He thought he was King Midas. He thought everything he touched would turn to gold. Yeah, totally away with the fairies, lost in his ego. And that's when I knew Eddie Hearn was in trouble. When he put together that original DAZN broadcast team. And he hired Maya Jama, who he was paying a ridiculous amount per show. Darren Barker and who was the other guy? Chris Lloyd, who was supposed to be some kind of comic relief. But they were terrible. Eddie Hearn basically hired a bunch of his own mates who didn't necessarily have any broadcast talent. And Maya Jama, who was some social media star, didn't know anything about boxing, paying her far too much. It was obvious she was just going to take the money, go on sick leave, and then hand in her notice, which is what she did. So yeah, and Eddie Hearn announced that as game changed. It was a game-changing broadcast team. He totally lost the plot, Eddie Hearn, by that point. Totally lost the plot. So yeah, I want to say AJ was the catalyst for everything. But a big, big moment was when Eddie Hearn switched over to DAZN in the UK. And you could see how far gone he was. Getting carried away with his ego, you know? Indeed, Let Me A says, Hearn was more focused on the American market, almost obsessed, looking for the next American star. And that backfired. I think he's admitted that he made a load of mistakes in America, you know? He thought it would be easier in America than it turned out to be. People saying some wild stuff in the chat there. Very wild stuff. Claiming Eddie Hearn was smashing this, that, and the other one. I mean, the Sky Nicholson rumor, at this stage, I'd be surprised if it's not true, you know, because of the way that Eddie Hearn has reacted when asked about his marriage and whatnot, and the fact that people like Oscar De La Hoya publicly came out and said that Eddie Hearn's having an affair with Sky Nicholson. And Eddie Hearn, as far as I'm aware, hasn't tried to sue De La Hoya for defamation or anything. You know, when a public figure comes out like that, somebody who's on the same platform as you, and accuses you of having an affair with one of your boxers, you have to come out and send a legal letter, or, you know what I mean? You have to. As far as I'm aware, Eddie Hearn hasn't done that. So it's pretty damning, isn't it? Yeah, Sky Nicholson's reaction when Derek Chisora asked her out for lunch was very Karenish. It was so Karenish, man. I was like, wow, Sky thinks that she's hot stuff. Dear, oh dear. Exactamundo says she maybe didn't want to start the rumor mill off again. Okay, touche. Touche, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. Maybe I should retract then. That is Exactamundo has made a fair point there. That's a good point. You know, maybe she realized they're on camera and she doesn't want a new rumor to start that she's getting piped down by Del Boy now. Yeah, okay, that's a good point. So maybe her acting that way was for the cameras, you know? JM says, Sky's been smashed more than Harvey Price's iPad. Crazy. For those who don't know who Harvey Price is, type it into a search engine. Yeah, we're going down a dark road, a very dark road. Shout out to JM. I remember when Harvey Price swore on television on one of them breakfast shows. What did he say? Did he call someone a wanker or something? I forget what he said. EA says Shields is a home wrecker. Oh, not really. Not really. Not from what what's his face? Papoose has said. He said that Remy Ma was cheating on him multiple times before he started seeing Clarissa Shields. Shout out to Daily Disruption. Says, Hatman enjoyed this. Thanks, over and out. Big up, big up. You have yourself a good evening. Will says, just tuned in and you're talking about Harvey Price. Gotta read out these super chats, bro. People say some wild stuff. Is this like the Sonya Fowler stream again? I hope not. Jay Silver says, Papoose must love mainly dominant women. Yeah, he likes masculine women, clearly, which is a bit weird. JR says, now traveling back from the fight. What did you make of it? Very wet day in Ipswich. It feels like I'm in that movie, Get Out. If I don't make it back, please come and save me, Hatman. I thought that Huni totally outboxed Fabio Wardley and that Wardley was cooked going into the 10th round. I thought there was no way he was going to pull it out of the bag this time. I did actually lean towards Wardley winning the fight, like beforehand, before the bout started. I was saying I'm leaning towards Wardley slightly, but I do expect him to get outboxed. But I thought it would be somewhat competitive. Even if Wardley was getting outboxed, I thought it would be more competitive than it turned out to be. It was a whitewash from Justis Huni. Totally dominated Wardley. Wardley looked tired. He was getting hit with body shots. He was missing all over the place. He wasted loads of punches early in the fight. And so going into the 10th, I was literally saying during the stream, yeah, there's no way Wardley can pull this one out of the bag. This trick, if you want to call it that has worked for him in the past. This is finally the fight where it's not going to save him. And right when I was saying that, bang, the shot comes out of nowhere. As if Fabio Wardley heard me or something through the ether. There you go, yeah. That's what he said, Dom Robinson. Hello, you cunt. That's what he's... I shouldn't even have said that myself. JR says, I couldn't score it well from where I was, but it seemed like Huni was dominating. Yeah, he was totally dominating. Totally dominating. EJ says, Papoose is 50 years old and Shields is 29. And? What's he supposed to do? Get a 50-year-old woman? Hell no. I'm in my mid-40s. I wouldn't dream of dating a woman my age. Who wants an old bag? To hell with that. Hello, you algorithm. Indeed. Kyle says, Hatman, why do you think people are against age gaps, especially when it's two grown people? 2 reasons. Men that are against age gaps are men who are jealous. Older men who are stuck with some ugly old wench and they wish they could get a woman in her prime. So jealousy from those kind of men. And it's not jealousy both ways. And the women are also jealous. Like women my age, in their mid-40s, they want guys like me. Yeah? No kids, own business, so on and so forth, right? Got my ish together. They want guys like me. Why the hell would I want to settle down with a woman who's the same age as me in her 40s? I don't have kids and I want kids, so I'm not going to go for some old hag it's not just the fact she's old and she's not physically in her prime anymore. It's also the fact that she's got all this emotional baggage. You know, women my age who are single are so bitter. When you talk to them, their energy is so off and so bitter and jaded. It's awful. Horrible. When you talk to a younger woman, they're still full of life. You know, they're still full of optimism and joy, and they just got a much better vibe about them. Generally, obviously there are some younger women who are awful as well. But the ones in certain parts of the world, you know, who are still full of joy, that's what you're looking for if you want to start a family. You don't want to geriatric pregnancy starts at 35 anyway, so if you're a guy like me that doesn't yet have kids and you're looking to have kids, it doesn't make sense to pick a woman the same age. Do you know what I mean? She might be going through the menopause any moment now. So it don't make no sense. And also, men age better than women. And also, for a man to be single at my age, it's normally because of the fact that when he was younger, he was broke. I went into this in a previous stream. And I made the conscious choice not to have kids. I could have had kids a couple of times, but I didn't do it. And that, of course, led to the end of those relationships. The fact I wouldn't have kids with these women at the time, because I was broke. I thought it would be irresponsible to bring kids into the world when both parents ain't got a pot to pee in. Yeah? So I find myself in my mid-40s with no kids, looking to finally settle down. So a man can, reach this age without having kids for those reasons, because he was broke earlier on in his life. And he might, like me, see it as irresponsible to have kids when you're broke, or women might look at him and say, I don't want to have kids with him because he's broke. You see what I'm saying? Because your income as a man is linked to your value and how attractive women see you, or how attractive you are to women. Whereas for a woman, you don't need to make any money to be attractive to a man. Right? So you don't need to have your ish together financially for a man to want to come and wife you. You see what I'm saying? So you should be getting wifed in your 20s. Why are you all up in 45 and you haven't been wifed? What's that all about? A man doesn't need you to make a successful career and all this type of stuff to want to wife you. So why the hell are you in your mid-40s and you ain't been wifed? There's something seriously wrong with you. In China, women over the age of 30, they call them leftover women. Like there's something wrong with them. Why hasn't someone wifed you by now when you were in your prime? Why were you not wifed? Yeah, as Kylie said there, younger women have better energy. Yeah. Especially in more traditional societies, way better energy. Way better energy. Kyle said, I saw a girl say a man who is 33 is a PDF because he was dating a 23-year-old. Yeah, there's a lot of that. And I'm telling you now, I've said this previously. I think I might have said it on Patreon. Anybody who calls me that for dating a girl in her 20s, I'm literally going to sue you, because that is defamation. And I'm not even playing. That is literally a lie, and it's defamation. Since when is a 25-year-old woman a child? Like, what kind of gaslighting is this? Do you know what I mean? But this is the twisted desperation and the twisted envy that so many people are coming out with now. The warped mind of envious people and bitter people. They come out with all this rubbish. Joshua Hooker says, I'm 31 and just broke up with my 32-year-old girlfriend. I recently started dating a 24-year-old, and I'm so much happier. Relationships with younger girls are so much easier. Yeah, because they don't have all the emotional baggage. Over the age of 30, most of these women are so damaged that they are incapable of pair bonding. Yeah. If a woman is capable of pair bonding, she's probably going to do it in her 20s. Yeah, they respect you more as well. I mean, I'm talking to several girls right now who are in their mid-20s. And the whole, conversation with them has a totally different dynamic than a conversation with a girl in her 30s or 40s. The energy is totally different. They definitely respect you more, for sure. They look at you as a source of knowledge. They want to learn things from you, so on and so forth. Whereas a woman my age, I don't even think about women my age. But if you guys, ask me about them, or in conversations like this, I end up thinking about them. They're just write-offs, man. They're not even in my reality. Do you know what I mean? They're just write-offs. They're just write-offs. Do I mind cosmetic surgery? I don't like cosmetic surgery. No, thank you. Somebody asking what happened to my previous girlfriend. My previous girlfriend was married to her mother. Yes. She was married to her mother. She was attached by the umbilical cord to her mother still. So that's a red flag, I thought it was a bit strange early on in that relationship, but the longer the relationship went, I realized how problematic it was. It's as if she hadn't matured enough by her age. You know what I mean? She was like married to her mother. She literally still lived with her mother. She'd never left home. Unbelievable. Her mum was by herself. Her dad was in Africa. And she just didn't want to leave her mum. I'm like, this is just... Anyway. Watch out for... If a girl is still living with her mum... See, if a girl's living with her parents, that's different. Because if she's living with both parents, the parents will still encourage her to find a man and move out. Because they think that's healthy. But if it's a girl whose parents are not together and she's living with her mum past the age of about 25 or 26, it's a red flag. It's a red flag. If she's older than 25 or 26 and she's still living with her mum, it's not the one. There's a problem there. Yeah, the mom, and a lot of these mums, they're manipulative. They will manipulate their daughters and guilt trip their daughters. And this is what the mum of my ex was doing. One of her daughters eventually got upset with the mum and they had a big row. And she left the country to go get married in Africa, in her home country. But the one I was with, no, she was just tied to the umbilical cord of the mother. Oh no, my mom. So yeah, fellas, watch out for that one. If you find a woman who's, way up into her late 20s or God forbid 30s, and she's still living with her mum, the selfish mum manipulating her, trying to keep her around because she doesn't want to be alone in old age, it's a massive red flag. Because she's basically going to want you to join her in having your life revolve around her mum. Yeah, that's literally what it was. She wanted my life to revolve around her mum. Can you imagine? Throw all of your plans and all of your ambitions away. Do you know what I mean? Just come and have your life revolve around my mum. Indeed. Yeah, that is the thing. Go for girls whose parents are still together. Whose parents are married. Not ones who basically have become like a carer for their mother. Not necessarily in a medical way, but, in an emotional way. Because the mum's alone, Wacko Jackal says, what works best for you, Hatman? Online, or do you go out and chat to gal? Well, I grew up, of course, before the online stuff. Chatting to girls on road and wherever else. What I would say is, my perception at this stage, I'm not in the West anymore, but my perception at this stage is that, and from what I've seen on some of these apps, is that apps are pretty much useless now for men in many parts of the West, London and whatnot. Apps are pretty much useless for most men. Not all men, but I want to say my perception is apps are useless for most men now. There was a time, I want to say a decade or so ago, when apps were still quite useful, but I don't think they're so useful now. I think that the app game in the West is just totally dead for men. And I do have to put a caveat on it and say in the black community, because women from other communities, they might be a bit different. I don't know. When it comes to like the black community in places like London, apps are just dead. It's totally dead for most men. In other parts of the world, in developing countries, apps are a lot more useful, but there are certain issues. A lot of hookers, a lot of brasses, ladies of the night use apps in developing countries. So you have to do a lot of swiping past brasses. Do you know what I mean? And go into conversations and find out who's a brass and who isn't. I mean, it's quite obvious most of the time, but when you do talk to girls on apps in developing countries, it's fantastic. They're very polite. They're very warm and friendly. They don't get funny when you ask for their number. Because that's a thing now, like in the UK and a lot of Western countries, girls don't want to give you their number on apps. They're happy to talk in the app. But when you ask for their number, they're like, oh, no, I'd rather keep it on the app. As soon as a girl does that to you, you need to unmatch immediately. No funny business, no stupid, like, what are you doing? Whereas in developing countries, when you ask a girl for the number, they just give you the number immediately. There's no messing around or any of that business. They just give you the number. If they like you, they like you. If they look at your profile, they like you, and they're going to give you their number. There's not going to be any funny games. But anyway, short answer to the question is both. Both. I approach girls in real life and utilize apps too. Jake says, Hatman, I worked in Thailand a few years ago and joined a dating site. Even the girls you think are normal, you find out are on the game. Became quite frustrating. Yeah, some countries, that issue is worse than others. And Thailand is like a hot spot for prostitution and whatnot. So, you know, in some countries, it's like the overwhelming majority of brasses on the dating apps. And I can tell you that in Costa Rica, the vast majority, from what I've seen, of women on dating apps, they're hookers. The vast majority of them. You won't find many women on dating apps in Costa Rica that ain't hookers. And one of the reasons for that is because prostitution is legal in Costa Rica, for those of you who don't know. It's one of the relatively few places in the world where prostitution is legal. Matt says, yo, I gotta go Costa Rica. And Circle says it's legal in the UK. Is it? I'm not aware of it being legal in the UK. That must be a recent thing. Let me look that up. Is it legal in the UK? It's not something I've heard of. Let me have a look here. Oh, apparently it is. I had no idea. Look how out of touch I am. Yeah, it says here, it is legal in the UK for consenting adults. Wow. I had no idea about that. Oh, okay, but here's the catch. Related activities are illegal, so soliciting or loitering for business in public places is illegal. Okay. So that makes it difficult for the way they have to, you know, get clients. They're not allowed to loiter or solicit. So how do they even get clients then? Because soliciting means basically even going on a dating app and saying that you're a hooker. That's soliciting. Whereas in Costa Rica, none of that is illegal. You can stand, the hookers can stand on corners, they can solicit, they can advertise their services openly. In Costa Rica, they do all that. But in the UK, they're not allowed to solicit. So how do they even get clients then? I don't know, weird. People are saying there are sites for it. Yeah, but sites for it is still soliciting. I would have thought that's still soliciting though. Soliciting is advertising it, right? Trying to get punters. That's soliciting, and that is illegal in the UK. So, I don't know, man. It's weird. But yeah, anyway, point being, in Costa Rica, there's no restrictions. The only thing that is illegal in Costa Rica is pimping. So pimping is illegal, but the girls themselves, they're allowed to do whatever they want, you know. Prostitute themselves and solicit and all that kind of stuff is totally legal. Matt says, I'm sure there are still tons of pimps in Costa Rica, for sure. But they have to move carefully because you can get locked up for that. And the hookers in Costa Rica, they're supposed to have like medical checks every few months or whatever the case may be. And they get like a medical card thing that shows they're clear of diseases and all this wild stuff. Yeah. It's mad, isn't it? Registered with the government as hookers. EA Wavy says, are they fit? Not the ones I've seen, but I don't know. Where I am, there aren't that many of them. The hot spots for them are like in San Jose, the capital, and certain towns on the coast like Jaco is heavy for hookers in Jaco. I mean, most of the girls in the bars and the restaurants and the clubs and all that in Jaco, they're all brasses. So I haven't seen that many of them, truth be told, because where I live, there's not that many of them about. It's a different kind of vibe. You might be right there, Matt. If people want that kind of stuff, go Brazil. Jake says, why do you think AJ's never had a missus? I don't know whether he hasn't had a missus. I don't know. I mean, he might be one of these guys that just keeps his private life private, you know? And that's really the thing to do. If you're a public figure, you want to keep your private life private. You don't want to be dating and then showing your missus to the world and all that. That only ever causes problems. You keep your missus private, you know? Joshua Hooker says, please don't refer to prostitutes as hookers. Says he's joking. Yeah. To be fair, I need to stop using all these terms for the sake of this algorithm. It might zap the monetization on this stream again. Yeah, Dwyer used to have some crazy sayings, right? He still calls people mid-range hookers. But in the same videos where he would say this one's a mid-range hooker, he'd also talk about straddling. So all his language was crazy, right? The straddle was about hedging his bet, right? Instead of calling it hedging a bet, he called it straddling. So man's talking about mid-range hookers, straddling, and all this other stuff. I'm like, whoa, Dwyer, what kind of life do you lead on the weekend? Hussein says, at what age did you lose your hair? I've never lost my hair. I've been shaving my head since I was a teenager, but I never actually lost my hair. I can still grow a full head of hair now. I never lost my hair. Kylie says, Dwyer is a secret freak, no doubt. And Circle says, ain't nothing wrong with straddling a mid-range hooker so your bet comes off until you hit the jackpot. Yeah, Dwight did go in on Johnny Fisher when he lost. I saw that. That was quite funny. Abraham says voluntary baldness is quite uncommon. Tupac and Mayweather did it. No, it's quite common. Quite a lot of people do it. Certainly in the black community, a lot of people do it. You know, I started shaving my head because it just seemed like the practical thing to do. You know? I don't enjoy being up in the barbers for hours on end and having to get an appointment at the barbers and all this carry on. Just shave my head. Simple. You know, all that sitting around in barbershops, listening to some of the most idiotic conversation imaginable. It was never for me. Because you're only going to hear absolute nonsense in barbershops. So, for example, shout out to Devin if he's in the chat still. Devin was going to some barbershop in Birmingham. And there was a Jamaican barber, yeah, at this barbershop. And he was some loudmouth idiot who Devin got into an argument with when he was waiting to get his hair cut. And the Jamaican barber was adamant that Gervonta Davis would knock out Anthony Joshua. That is the type of conversations that you hear in barbershops on a daily, all right? Loudmouth idiots coming out with unbelievable nonsense, acting like they're experts. Just unreal, man. So I've never had any interest, because obviously I have been to barbershops when I was a teenager, went in barbershops many times. But hearing nonsense like that, I was like, no, thank you. I don't need to be hanging around with the idiots in barbershops and hearing the rubbish that comes out of their mouths. Johnny Gaffer says, yup, barbershops are the worst. So I dropped myself out of the barbershop game early. In the 90s, I stopped going barbershops. Iron Mike says, why don't you learn how to cut your own hair? Because it's not that deep. Just shave it off. It's easier. Then I don't have to learn how to do it. I mean, I never saw it as a problem, you know? Like my younger brother learned to cut his own hair. But I was like, well, just shave it. I don't see the need to be learning all that. Just shave my head. Simple. Job done. Kyle says, come join the dreads community. Well, that's another reason that I never wanted to have. I did grow my hair out a few times as a teenager, where I had like twists and stuff like that. But I never really wanted to have long hair because getting into a fight, somebody can grab your hair. So from young, I was always thinking about stuff like that, you know? Your hair grows, somebody can grab you by the dreads. So I was like, nah, I want to be ready to rock and roll. Well, now, yeah, I was using razors for the longest time. But a year or so ago, I got a head shaver for the first time in my life. And head shaver's fantastic. You know, the shavers that are specifically designed for shaving heads? Yeah, they're great. Got one of them head shavers and does a fantastic job. And as somebody said earlier on, haircuts are extremely expensive now. Somebody said save that $250. It's definitely not $250 for a haircut. Not unless you're in Mexico or something. Or India. Kyle says, I can confirm that's happened to me in a fight. See it there? Yeah, ain't nobody grabbing me by the locks. What do I think of living in Dubai? I used to live there. I lived there for several years. Well, lived in the Middle East for several years, and some of that time was spent in Dubai. But this was way before it became the place to be. I lived in Dubai during the best time. Iron Mike says £30 minimum in London, I'm hearing. Yeah, wouldn't surprise me. Would not surprise me. Dubai has become oversaturated now. Now everybody wants to live there. All the youngsters want to go there. When I was living there, Dubai had more of a family vibe because there wasn't as much of a Western youth population there. There were a lot of Western people there, but they were mainly like older people that had made money and were there with their families. And there was a lot of people from all over the world there. I want to say, yeah, mainly family people. So I had more of a family vibe back then. It wasn't a complete family vibe, but far more of a family vibe than it has now. Now it's like a much younger crowd. It's more expensive. It's more congested. It's more crowded and so on. They have more stuff now. The place looks more impressive, but I'm just talking about the vibe. For me, the vibe was better back then when it was cheaper and less congested and all that kind of stuff. Now it's, now everyone's discovered it. It kind of ruins it. Cal says now it's full of tax dodgers. Well, it always was. That's one of the benefits there, right? You don't pay income tax. And nobody wants to pay income tax if they're smart. I mean, none of us want to pay income tax. And that's one of the places you can base yourself if you don't want to pay income tax. And also petrol is very cheap and all that type of stuff. Certainly used to be. Extremely cheap. Praise says, what Middle Eastern country would you recommend for a young bachelor? Depends on your personality. But the first thing you need to do is get it out of your head that you can move the same way in the Middle East that you move in the West, because you get yourself in trouble, okay? You can still have relationships and fornicate and all that kind of stuff, but you have to be sensible about the way you go about it. But in terms of quality of life, Qatar, I found was the best place in the Middle East in terms of just quality of life, bang for your buck and all that type of stuff. Qatar was very good. Doha, which is the capital. And I think Qatar still is the richest country in the world on GDP. I think it's still the richest country in the world based on GDP. Not the richest country in the world overall in terms of the gross amount of money they have overall, but in terms of GDP, the amount of income per person, it's the wealthiest country in the world still, last I checked. So the standard of living is extremely high. Exactamundo says there's no alcohol or no snow though. Oh, you can get alcohol, no problem. The only place in the Middle East that I'm aware of where you can't get alcohol, although people still get it, they brew their own hooch and stuff like that in Saudi Arabia. But in all the other Gulf states, you can get alcohol. Oh, you absolutely can. You'll have to bring your passport, right? Because they won't normally sell alcohol to locals or anyone with a Muslim name. Actually, no, I think they do sell to a Muslim name. As long as you got a British passport or like some kind of Western passport, they'll sell you alcohol, no problem. No problem. In those Gulf states, in the UAE, in Qatar, all those places, they have like supermarkets and shops in expat areas that sell alcohol. And the other place where you'll go to get alcohol is at the hotels. So there's a culture in many of those Gulf states of going to hotels, not even to stay in them, but just to go to their bars and restaurants that are inside the hotel complex. So that's a very, very common thing for people to do. Like brunches are very big out there for people to go to these brunches and whatnot at these hotels. Some of them are spectacular, lavish hotels. You can get alcohol, no problem. As long as you're not, a local, an Arab. In many cases, they won't sell to you, but there are still some bars in these places that do sell to Arabs. You know what I mean? But it's weird. The ones where the Arabs go don't let Westerners in. And the ones where the Westerners go don't let Arabs in. And so the idea is that the Arab-only bars, only let Arabs in so that nobody can snitch on them for drinking. You see what I'm saying? Because all the Arabs who go to those places are all drinking, so they're all guilty, right? So no one's going to snitch on each other in there because they're all doing it. But they don't want outsiders to see them drinking. So it's like that. It's kind of a weird one. Shout out to Matt. He says, I have a friend in the Middle East who got caught smoking weed in Dubai and has been in prison since 2007. Yeah, I'm not surprised. You can't be doing stuff like that. You cannot be doing all that Western stuff out there. They'll put you in prison for a long time for stuff which will get you a slap on the wrist in the West or nothing. So you got to be very careful. I mean, that was never an issue for me because I wasn't trying to do any of that. So. Iron Mike says Saudi Arabia is making it legal now. Is that right? Are they making alcohol legal? I mean, there's been a lot of reforms since MBS came in. They're making alcohol legal now? Okay. They're bringing themselves in line. If that's true, they're bringing themselves in line with the other Gulf states where it's been legal for a very, very long time. Very, very long time. But that was never even a big deal for me because, alcohol is not something that would make me think, okay, I'm going to live there or not. I don't need alcohol. I haven't drunk alcohol for like 7 years now, so I don't care. Tony says, you're right. They were serving pork in Dubai where I stayed. I was quite surprised. Oh, yeah. Even when I was living in the Middle East, you could get bacon and pork and stuff like that. Oh, yeah. But again, you normally get it in these like Western expat neighborhoods that have their own supermarkets and stuff like that. And you have to go to those places to get it if you want it, right? But yeah, you can get pork in the Middle East. If you really need to eat it. I mean, I'm not really bothered about eating pork and all that. AJ says women are allowed to drive there too now. Big mistake. To be fair, right? The whole like women drivers thing. I mean, there are still obviously some terrible women drivers, but I think young male drivers are more hazardous on the road, to be fair, in this day and age. Do you know what I mean? Certainly in a city like London, young male drivers are doing all sorts of madnesses on the road. A lot of the time drinking, high. Do you know what I mean? And you're more likely to get upset with people like that than some woman who's driving a bit slow or she's slow to pull out at a roundabout or whatever. Some of them young male drivers are just doing all sorts of stupidness. Exactamundo says we might be more hazardous, but at least we can reverse park. I'm always annoyed by people that drive ridiculously fast when they've literally got nowhere to go. That always annoys me. It'd be like a Sunday afternoon and you're in a 40 and some guy's doing 60 or 70. You're like, where are you going, bro? It's a slow Sunday afternoon. You're driving around like you're trying to catch your wife at home cheating or something. Like, what's going on? There is nowhere that you could possibly need to be that urgently on a Sunday afternoon to be driving that fast. Exactamundo says we all learn to drive playing GTA. Maybe that's what it is. No lie, maybe that's actually what it is. Kyle says, I learned to drive from Need for Speed. Matt says, I hate how the USA doesn't revoke licenses for elderly over 85s. You know, that's a good point. I thought of that a lot over the years. And some of the near misses I've had have been when some really old person has failed to look when pulling out of a junction. And I've had some very close shaves with an old person coming out of a junction because they just didn't look the other way, you know? So yeah, old people can be hazardous behind the wheel for sure. Real hazardous. Ricky Ricardo, I guess he doesn't realize the fight has already happened. He says, Huni will win this. Yeah, the fight's long over, my guy. JM says Ricky's time traveling. All right, going to shut this stream down now, guys. So, as always, big thank you for everyone joining the conversation. Special shout out to all those who donated via Super Chat. Matt Borgerson, Joshua Hooker, JM, Ibrahim, Daily Disruption, Sam O'Brien, Nova, Rex, 11, Murazman, Alex, Bolton, Jay Silva, Jake, Matt, Kayvon Green, Ben, Swaggins, Triple R, Hyro Protagonist, Ocean Blue, James Clifford, Gaz, Kira Malcolm, and Mr. Luca. All right? Big up, big up. Take it easy, take care, and I'll catch you guys on the other side. I'm out.